All right, everyone. Welcome to tonight's session, right? With the Next Level team, right? This is the Next Level Live. Okay, so for all of you who are joining us here right now, just want to do a very quick sound check. If you guys can hear me clearly, you can see me clearly, all right, do type yes in the chat, okay? All right, okay, so I can see some of you are slowly streaming in, okay? And tonight we're going to have a very different live stream. Okay. I know generally over here in the Next Level, they talk a lot about investment stuff, right? Entrepreneurship, AI influencer. And tonight, I'm very happy that they invited me here to share with you all something that is slightly different, but also very much related to investing. Okay. And that is got to do with property or real estate. Okay. All right. So just want to make sure that you guys are here with me. Once again, if you can hear me, you can see me, do type yes in the chat. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. So as a start, can I just check with everybody? Are you guys looking at property investing? Is property a big part of your portfolio? Okay. Now, for me, actually, when I first started investing, right, and also I've been helping clients to look at their property portfolio on a one-on-one basis because property is such a unique instrument, right? It's very unlike the stock market, whereby if someone say, hey, for example, XYZ, by the way, not investment advice, okay? By the way, XYZ company is a good company, then you can just go and buy, right? It's so simple. But when it comes to property, it is not the same. It is not like, hey, if this property I think is good, it might not be good for another person, right? So that's why I do a lot of one-on-one with my clients. And I realize one thing is this: while we talk a lot about the stock market, right, options, which I'm very involved in as well, right? I'm also a stock market investor. But I realize for most people, the largest part of their portfolio, the net worth, okay, the majority of their net worth is actually in property. Okay. So I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys, but for almost all my clients that I work with, except for those who are quite advanced in age, maybe they have already sold their property, right? Most people would have majority of their net worth in their property. And to me, the most important thing is to make sure that that largest bulk, okay, that biggest part of your portfolio is taken care of. All right. Okay. So we have Rachel here. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Melson. Okay. All right. So tonight I want to touch on that because I think many of you, or not say many of you, I would say some of you, you might not be optimizing your property portfolio to the best. Okay. You might be sitting on very huge potential that could really change your wealth trajectory. Okay. So let me just get started tonight. Okay. Oops. Why is there two? Let me see. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I think it's the background, right? Okay. Let me remove the background. Okay. So, all right. So over here, let me just get started. Now, let me just quickly introduce myself in case for those of you who are not familiar with me. My name is Pete. Okay. I'm a stock market investor, just like many of you, but I'm also very interested in property many years ago. It started off as a passion project, okay, where I just share with friends about property because I see myself as one success case where my property helped me to change my wealth trajectory, right? So that's when I help some friends, right? A bit of consultation, and then this slowly turned into a boutique business, right? Whereby we specialize in transforming clients' portfolio, right? So we talk to clients and understand their needs, okay, and then we craft a proposal for them based on deep research and analysis, right? So just want to be very clear out there, I'm not a property agent. My job here is that when you engage me as a one-on-one to craft that plan for you that is best for your investment, right? Or for your own needs. Because when it comes to property, it's very unlike buying stocks. Buying stocks is pure investment, right? You're never going to stay in your Apple shares, isn't it? But when it comes to real estate, there can be a large element of your personal preference. For example, where you like to stay, is there a kids' school nearby, and stuff like that, okay? And I also partner with agents, very capable, qualified agents to help my clients. So that's what we do. In the past, I would say 1+ year since we started doing this consultation professionally, right? Okay. We have done more than 200 families and total asset value is about 300 million. So I'm very happy with the results. A lot of the clients have seen great results in this environment. And I really want to help more people in growing their wealth. Okay. So the objective for tonight is also this, right? As much as possible, I want to share with you guys everything I can, but I do know from the links level, guys, I have limited time, just about 45 minutes. So I want to push in as much as I can. And later on, if we have time, we can do some Q&A. Okay. Now, let's dive straight into the Singapore property scene very quickly. And I want to first touch on the private property, right? Private real estate. Okay, so you can see this is the private residential property index. This is not the HDB index, by the way. Okay, this is the private property, so which includes condos and landed. And you can see basically ever since COVID, which is around here, okay, back in 2019, 2020, it has been on a run, on a tear upwards. Okay, and the majority of this run, okay, make a guess, make a guess. Where do you think the majority of this run comes from? Okay, where is the majority of the increase? Okay, where do you think it comes from? All right. Now, a lot of times people will say, oh, this is just the broad, property price increase. But actually, a lot of this increase actually comes from, right, which is new launches. Okay. So let me just start with the new launch. And I want to talk about the latest news, right? I don't know how many of you are following the latest new launch, okay? Can anybody tell me, right? Can anybody tell me what are the latest new launch? Okay. What are the latest new condo launches, condo launches in Singapore? Okay. All right, let me take a sip of water. Okay, I see like there's quite a number of you here, okay? So I know there's a bit of lag, right? But I want to see, I want to engage you guys because the more you talk to me, then the more I know what you guys need, then I can talk to you, okay? Okay, very good. The Nyang Cat, okay, the analytically says Springleaf, River Green, Penrith, okay? Melson says Springleaf Residence, Edwin say River Green. Okay, so I can see that many of you here are followers of the market over here, okay? So let me go through one by one. So what's happening to the new launch market right now? Okay, River Green, right, which is the Core Central project. For those of you who are not aware, Singapore is split into 3 regions. Core Central region, which is in the middle, right? And then the rest of Central region, RCR, which is the outside, and kind of like donut shape, right? And then the widest part, okay, is what we call as OCR, outside of Central region. And this one, River Green, okay, as what was mentioned earlier on, is the CCR project, okay? And on the first launch weekend, this project sold a whopping 88%. Wow, okay? Okay, this is very, very rare because usually CCR project, they are generally more expensive, right? So you can see that the per square foot over here on average is about 3,130, okay? And if it's the only project this the last weekend, okay, is it last weekend or last, okay, then it wouldn't be so surprising, but it is not the only one. River Green on the same weekend was also sold together with another project known as the Promenade Peak. In fact, these two projects were almost next to each other, just across the road, right? And this project sold 54%, not too bad as well, right? More than half. And the per square foot is at 3,300 plus. So you can see that a lot of the increase in the private real estate index, right, the residential index, is actually driven by all these new launches, okay? Now, you would think that, hey, 2 projects, and these 2 are not small projects, by the way, right? They are like 500 plus units each, would have already soaked up a lot of buying power over the weekend, isn't it? But no, right? At the same time, we also have Canberra Crescent Residence, right, that achieve a 40% sale on the launch weekend. Same weekend, by the way, okay? And the per square foot, of course, is a bit friendlier because it's in the outer region, close to 2,000 per square foot. So this got a lot of people very perplexed because, wow, why is Singaporeans so crazy, you know? like wow, coming in to buy all these projects over one weekend, and it seems like the demand really outstrips the supply. Everything sold at like at least 40% and above. Okay. Now, And this is not the only time it happened. In fact, it was continuing from another blockbuster new launch. Okay, so guys, do you all know what is the new launch just before these three? Do you know what was the new launch just before these three? Okay, if you know the answer, type in the chat. All right. Before these three. I'm typing the banner as we go. Anyone knows the projects before these three? Do you still remember? Okay. Yeah, so Edwin is very keen with the property market. Fantastic. Nobody knows. Forgot already, right? Okay. Now, you might not have remembered it because it sold so well that if you didn't buy it, right, honestly, there's no more stock for you already. Okay. And that project is actually over here. This is Lynden Wood. Okay. So this is right beside the Kent Ridge MRT station. Okay. And it sold a whopping 94%. Wow. Only the three, from what I understood, is only the large size unit, like the 4-bedders, are not sold. The rest are absolutely snap up, okay, over the launch date. You can see, in fact, the screen here tells you how many units are being sold. Every red bar is basically one unit sold. And this was probably in the beginning of it, okay? And the average per square foot was about 2,450, right? So there's seems like crazy amount of demand. People are just buying indiscriminately, don't care whether is it CCR, OCR, or Lynden Wood, in this case, RCR. No matter which region in Singapore, people are just buying it hand over fist. But the thing is, it is not actually true for all the new launches, right? In fact, before Lynden Green, there were also other projects that actually gave a drastically different picture, right? For example, over here, One Marina Gardens. The weekend only sold 38%, right? And we also have Bloomsbury at the Media Circle region sold 25%. Even though the per square foot is roughly around the same, 2,400, right? Previously was 2,400 also, right? So the thing is, it comes on the back of this not so as blockbuster sale. I wouldn't say they are bad, but it's just not as high as what we saw at Lynden Wood. And in fact, one of the most shocking one was this unit. Okay, so this is W Residence Marina View, okay, which is right smack in the central region of Singapore. And reportedly, they have only sold 2 units out of the 683 units. Wow. Okay. So leading up to this series of new launches, everyone thought that, wow, maybe the Singapore buying appetite has gone down, right? But it's actually not true. If you look at it, actually, it is not that the Singapore buyers are exhausted or running out of money. They are not, right? Singaporeans are actually quite wealthy in some sense, right? There's a lot of firepower, a lot of dry powder set aside. It is just that buyers are very selective. Okay. And this is one of the first thing that I want to share with everybody as you want to build your wealth using property, using real estate, is that you must be selective as well, right? Do not just say, oh, it's a new launch, let's just go and buy and then we shall make money. I know out there are some people who are selling this kind of message, but it is absolutely not true, right? I've seen so many new launches that didn't do so well as well. Okay. But the good news is that as the buying power comes in to buy away all the good units, then the units that previously didn't do as well are also starting to get a bit of benefits because the buyers will be like, oh, I want to buy Lynden Wood, but it's sold out. Why don't I go and take a look at what is remaining? Okay, and we can see that the spillover effect also happens for Bloomsbury and One Marina Gardens, right? Even though they didn't launch to a very high percentage, but right now you look at both of them, they are actually past 50% sold already for both of them. Okay, and especially for One Marina Gardens, I think this is quite an amazing feat because their 50% is basically someone else's condo 100%. Okay, so you can see that really the Singapore demand has been consistently very strong, right? And it is just that buyers are a bit more selective. Okay, now another thing that I want to warn everybody before you go into buying property is be a bit more sensitive to the price, right? Why do I say that? Because, for example, when the River Green, right, first came out to the market, the understanding is that they will launch at about 2,800 plus, right? But when the launch weekend happens, the average actually reached about 3,130, right? So there is always going to be a price difference. So when you're going to a new launch, I would say one of the important things, if you are very keen on buying new launch, okay, is that don't get sucked into the project, right? Because as they start to sell, there sometimes the price will start to increase, right? So don't get sucked into the whole process of like, oh, I'm already here to buy. If there's something to buy, I will definitely want to buy. Always check the price. And that's how I always advise my one-on-one member, is that we don't go for the project at any price. There is always going to be one price that we are willing to pay, right? We do not just go in and say, oh, everything is good. Okay, right. Now, so then the question is, hey, Pete, if new launch right now, the demand is so strong, okay, how do we know going forward the price is going to continue, right? How do we know that this is not the all-time high, okay? What will need to happen, okay, for the next few years for the price to continue to increase? And I say in Singapore, it's very interesting, okay? In fact, it's quite easy in a way, right? There's that the demand actually stays about the same throughout. Why do I say that? Because Singapore increased about 1% of population every single year, okay? Despite us not having the highest fertility rate, okay, we do bring in enough foreigners, permanent residents, right, or new citizens that brings in about 1% of population on average, right? So that means our demand, increasing demand, is always quite stable, right? The only thing that pretty much determine prices going forward is actually supply. Okay, so I don't want to do a econs 101 here, okay, but supply is where, it can fluctuate up and down quite a little bit. Okay, so you need to understand the cycle, right, of the Singapore property scene in order to understand that. And how do we understand the cycle, especially for the private sector, is to look at the private land supply. Okay, so this is where I want to go into something deeper. And if it's your first time seeing this, and you find it a bit confusing, don't worry, you're probably not the only one. Okay, but I want to emphasize this is very important, because this is probably the one most crucial thing that helped me and also many of my one-on-one members, right, to understand, hey, whether is it a good time to invest. Okay, now over here I want to emphasize, I'm not here to tell you whether you should buy now or buy later, right? In fact, my belief is that if you are going to buy a real estate, if it's a good price, then every time is a good time, right? Because generally, real estate prices will creep up with inflation. That's great. Okay, but as investors, we want to be a bit more targeted, right? So I will show you the supply picture that you can actually find out yourself from the authorities. Okay, but I have put them together in a very easy to digest format for you to read. Okay, now this is the slide or the graph that you can see from what you get from the authorities. And this is called the pipeline supply of private residential units, okay, by year of completion. So over here, what does it mean? Right, so this was back in 2023, right? So what it means is that, for example, this year is 2025, right? And it says that there are 6,000 units coming in. Now, this 6,000 unit does not represent or it is not your Lynden Wood, right? It is not your Bloomsbury, it's not your One Marina Gardens or Springleaf. No, right? It is actually units that has been launched maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right? Back in maybe 2021 or 2022. And they took some time to build, and on 2025, it is finally ready for you guys. Okay? And people are collecting keys. Now, guys, can you all type in the chat? Do you know of any project that is coming online this year that people are collecting keys? Okay, if you do, type in the chat. Okay. let me adjust the banner again. What are the TOP projects? They call it TOP projects, in 2025. Okay. What are the TOP projects in 2025? Now, I can share with you perhaps one of them. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I want to hear from you guys first. Okay, but let me just illustrate. So this was back in 2023, and in 2023 there was a bumper crop of 20,000 units. Right? Why? Because there was a lot of delay during COVID. So a lot of projects actually were forced to only TOP in 2023. But back in 2023, they already projected 2025, 2026, right, are actually quite low production years, right? 6,000, 8,000, not much, okay? And in fact, when we go to 2024, right, then we see that, hey, it continues to be so. 2025 shows you that it's 7,000 units. 2026 is about 9,000 units, all right? And if I were to compare just the latest 2 quarters, okay, the latest 2 quarters, you can see that for the first quarter of 2025 and the second quarter of 2025, okay, you can see that there's a bit of a difference, right? Now, do not look at the 2025 itself because this second half already removed the first 2 quarters. Okay, later I'll add them up to show you. But the important thing is to look at 2026, 2027, and going forward, right? And you can see that, yes, we are going to get a little bit more supply in 2026, but it's just going to be 8,000. Now, the key thing to understand is this, is that this 8,000 is not going to increase or decrease that much already. Why is that the case? Because any property that needs to TOP next year would have already been building for some time. There is no way, okay? There is no way any project this year start building, okay, right? And you can suddenly say, oh, this year start building, so therefore I can collect keys in 2026. No way, okay? It is just not possible, right? So 2026 is not going to change. I think 2027, maybe there are some possibility to change a little bit if some projects accelerate or maybe some project delay, but otherwise it is not going to change much as well, okay? And one thing to take note is that for 2028, that's where the crucial part comes in. You can see that the previous projection was 12,000, but it actually went down to 11,000, okay? So where did the difference go? I think the majority of the difference actually went into here, right? Now, before you start cheering and say, wow, Pete, it seems like after 2028, there's a huge amount of supply. Now, do take note, this is a cumulative figure. That means it includes 2029, 2030, 2031, 32. I don't know how far they go into. Usually, I think it's about 3 to 4 years. So what does it mean? It means that this number will actually not be 22,000 in 2029. It will probably be at the range of maybe 10,000, 11,000 based on my estimation, right? So what does it mean in total? Okay, in totality, what it means is this, is that if you bring everything together, now I bring all the years together, okay? So basically, you can see that we have a bumper crop in 2023, right? So this is like basically your Jetscape, your Treasure and Tampines, right? All these coming online, right? Your Normanton Park, okay? But after this massive flood of units, we have gone down to a low number. In fact, we have gone lower than what we expected. Generally, on average, long-term average is around, right, 13 to 14K. So we are still below, you know. In fact, for next year, I will expect the supply to be totally insufficient. This year and next year, the TOP projects is not sufficient, okay? In fact, this year, like I just asked you earlier on, can you all tell me any project that you know has just TOP? Actually, there are very few projects. From what I can count, okay, let me just count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Only 17 projects. That translates to your 6,200 units. Okay, so for example, those that are coming online this year, TOP, perhaps you want to buy as a sub-sale, will be, for example, like Midtown Bay, Midtown Modern, One Per Bank, right? Irwell Hill, okay? One Holland V Residences, Penrose, all this, okay? So all these are coming online just this year, okay? And even Pasir Ris 8 as well, okay? So to me is the supply in the private sector is very much dependent on how many number of these units are being completed. And you can see very clearly this year and next year, we're going to have a really shortage of supply. The last time where we saw the prices really jump for private property was 2020. And you can see it is the same picture, right? And we always say this, right? History may not always repeat, but it certainly rhymes. Seems like it, okay? All right, so that is something that I'm constantly watching for, and I'm telling my one-on-one clients who are hesitating and say, hey, Pete, you know, I don't know whether I should buy now. Maybe I should buy a bit later. Hopefully the price will drop. And I say, No, you just look at the supply picture, okay? It is very, very clear that the price is not going to drop because there's going to be a less than expected number of private condos coming into TOP, right? So lesser new units, the demand is still equally strong. So what do you think is going to happen to the price? Okay, so let me just quickly give you guys a top-down view. So what is happening here? So number one, like I said, there's not enough new TOP units. So buyers have no choice. What we see a lot of buyers right now is if they want something that is quite new, not enough new units that they can buy right now, they will have to say, let me go to new launches. But that only applies to people who can wait. You know, because when you buy new launch, you don't get the house right now, you get it 3-4 years later. And new launch prices are really quite high right now. And for those prime location, for example, like Lynden Wood, all this, right, you still need to ballot. You might not be so lucky. Okay. So in fact, what I'm seeing from my side of the picture when I'm talking to my one-on-one clients and also looking at, you know, talking to my agents who I'm partnering with, I say, hey, how is it on the ground? We are noticing a lot of buyers right now really flocking towards resale because there's really no choice, right? There's not enough TOP subsale unit. New launches are either too high or you need to wait for 4-5 years. So there's increasing number of people going to resale. Okay, but I want to tell you a secret is that this is not a consensus that is very common on the ground. Okay, on the ground, there are a lot of people or uninformed buyers that still think that new launch may be the best thing to go for, or maybe TOP units, okay? Or in fact, they will say, hey, maybe private property is not even worth investing in. Why? Because they will see the price increase index here, okay? So you look at the property price index here, comparing the first quarter of this year to the second quarter of this year, okay? You can see that actually, wow, non-landed property, like not very good. Okay, only went up by 0.7, previously went up just by 1%. It doesn't seem to be that kind of growth that people want to. Okay, so is this the truth? Now, I would say this picture is a little bit how should I put it? It's a little bit confusing. Why? Because it includes the new launch pricing. So what happens is that if the new launch pricing go up by a little bit, then it will have a very big effect because right now there's a lot of new launch selling. So new launch has an outsized impact on this percentage change. Okay, so what I decided to do is this. I decided to strip away the new launches. Okay, and I use the software to strip away the new launch, and I just compare the sub-sale units. That means those that are just TOP, haven't completed fully. Okay, and the resale. And true enough, the sub-sale prices are also not increasing a lot, right? So that's why new launch and also sub-sale, the small increase is actually a drag on the overall performance. However, if you look at 1 quarter ago, you just look at resale, even though we can see here the resale growth is 0.7% over the last quarter, but in reality, if you look at just resale itself, it has gone up by 2%. So it's a big difference. That means resale actually outrun the general price index by about 3 times, 0.7 to about 2%. Okay? And when I break it down to different core regions, that's when I realized the strength of resale. Resale overall has been very steady. In fact, all regions has gone up, right, tremendously in the last quarter, starting to increase. You can see that previously it was quite quiet, right? Not much. Then suddenly in the last quarter, boom. Because a lot of buyers are starting to feel the effect already. I want to buy TOP projects, not enough supply. I want to buy new launch, I may not get it. So for that certainty, for that urgency, for somewhere to stay, people are flocking towards resale. Okay? So talking about resale, then I would say the most pertinent question is, hey Pete, where to buy? Okay? Now, I would say where to buy in the stock market and where to buy in the real estate market is very similar. It's about following the money. Okay, find out where the money is flowing, and we go towards that. Okay, and how do we find out where the money is flowing? Is to understand what is the largest property group in Singapore. Okay, the largest property group in Singapore is not your private estate. It is not your landed. Okay, it is actually your HDBs. Okay, now for some of the viewers who are not familiar with Singapore, HDBs is actually our we call it HDB, but actually they are known as flats, right? Public housing flats, right? And these flats, while they are public housing, they are actually traded in the private world, right? You can buy and sell it, okay? And the prices of these houses has been going up quite a lot, okay? So this is the HDB resale index. In fact, HDB resale prices on the percentage term has gone up more than private property in the last couple of years, okay? Now, the interesting thing is that when you look at the prices increase, the question is, wow, Pete, this one look very unsustainable, you know, like a bit crazy, okay, right? It's like, wow, going through the roof, right? But the important thing to ask is, hey, is there a lot of transactions supporting this, okay? And this is exactly like the stock market, right? We always say, if the stock price go up at good volume means what? Good technical analysis, isn't it? Exactly the same for flats. So we want to find out, okay, the price increase is around here, 2021, 2022, all the way to today, 2025. The last 4 years, do we know if the volume also accompanies this? Okay, so over here, you can see that this is the total number of HDB resale application. So it also equates to number of sales, okay? And you can see that from 2022 all the way up here, right, the total registered application has been increasing, okay? Has been increasing. In fact, I think the increase is going to continue only, right? And right now, we can see that among the resale applications, the largest number of the applications are your 4-bedders and your 5-bedders, okay? So these are your largest quantum, right? Nowadays, we hear a lot of 4-bedders selling at 800K, 900K, 1 million. 5-bedders, almost certainly, if it's not a too bad area, not too old, is going to go above 1 million, okay? And the important thing is that the volume on HDB is pretty much seller driven, because the seller must be willing to sell first. Then someone can buy, right? So the sellers are very, very active right now, despite the prices climbing, and buyers are willing to pay, okay? So the question is, out of all these HDB resale, which are the one that makes the most money, okay? And the logic is very simple, is that you want to go to an area whereby there's huge growth in the HDB market, so that you can look at the sellers and say, hey, you know, wow, you are selling your house for $1 million, $1.5 million. And I can tell you, most of these guys, they would largely pay down their loan or paid most of their loan already. So when they sell for a 1 million, right, they sell for 1.1 million, I would say most of it is in cash. Okay. So when they sell something like this, you're going to have a lot of cash. So for a lot of you, you might be in the same situation, right? The question right now you might be thinking is, hey, Pete, I'm in my 5-room HDB, I'm my 4-room HDB. Should I sell? Okay. Should I sell and then buy a private property? Now, I would say this, and in fact, I was having this conversation earlier on with the Next Level guys, right? And I said, it really depends on your wealth planning. Okay. Now, if you are not treating your house as an investment, you think there's just a roof over your head, okay? I want to be very honest with you that buying a HDB flat is the cheapest roof over your head in Singapore you can find, okay? There's no two ways about it. It is the cheapest way of having a roof over your head, right? But if you're looking at investment case, okay, then I would say it depends whether you are still going to continue to work for the foreseeable future, right? Because if you're not going to continue to work for the foreseeable future, then I would say to buy another private property that gives you a larger loan may not be the most financially savvy thing to do, okay? But if you are dual income, right, you're getting good salary and you don't think that you have issues with income maybe in the next 10 to even 15 years, then I would say, yeah, you could totally upgrade to a private for the moment, right? To increase your wealth trajectory. And that's what I've done for myself and many of my clients, is that we all started from the private housing, public housing first, right? Then we saw the potential in the private housing and then we move up from there. Okay. So I wouldn't say there's a one-size-fits-all solution. That's why I always do one-on-one with my client to understand what do they need, right? Is it investment? Is it own stay? Do you need to stay near your parents or whatnot, right? So I don't really subscribe to this whole idea of like, oh, you must upgrade to a private property. No. Okay. It really depends on your circumstances, right? But I would say in terms of wealth creation for myself, in particular, okay, I've seen for me, for many of my one-on-one, is that private property does help to provide more wealth appreciation. And the reason is very simple, because the quantum is higher. The amount that you're investing is higher. Okay. So when I say, hey, if you want to buy, and a lot of my clients ask me, hey, if I want to buy in this area, which area should I look at? Okay. And I say, let's look at areas where there's the largest growth in the HDB prices. Okay. So for those of you who are holding on to your 4-room flat, 5-room flat, the next few slides will be very, very useful. Okay. Because it depends where your flat is. Are your flats in this, what I call golden estate? Okay, right? Where the price increase has been a lot over the last 5 years. Okay, are you all ready? Okay, so let's take a look here. So what I did was I go and pull out all the data. Okay, I don't know whether you can see or not. Let me just make it like that. Okay. So I went to pull out all the data for the 4-room flats. Okay, and I ranked them according to the price, average price. Back about 5 years ago to today, and I see what is the appreciation in percentage and also in the absolute amount. Okay, and you can see that number 1 is Toa Payoh. Okay, and surprisingly, number 2 is actually Sembawang. Okay, so you can see Sembawang 4-room flat today is actually about 600 plus thousand on average price, but back then they could even buy it cheaper at just 351. So therefore, the increase is 81%. All right, okay, and you all can see the rest for yourself. Bukit Batok was 3rd, Kallang Whampoa, Choa Chu Kang. Okay, a lot of people always don't like Choa Chu Kang, right? Think that it's too far out, right? But hey, there is some gem over here. This is one of the golden estate, right? These are the top 8, okay, followed by Woodlands. Woodlands also very strong, right? Then Tampines and Hougang area, right? So you can see, in fact, right, none of them come from the central area. You didn't see any Alexandra Road, that kind of thing. Okay, so what does it tell you? Is that the golden estate might not always be in the central area. Okay, so these are for 4-bedders. Now for 5-bedders, let's take a look over here. All right, so 5-bedders shifted a little bit. Okay, so you can see there is Pasir Ris, Sembawang, Woodlands, Choa Chu Kang, Bukit Batok, Hougang, Tampines, and Punggol as well. Okay, so once again, you can see Pasir Ris. Wow, the 5-bedder back then, I think maybe it's too cheap, right? The appreciation is tremendous, from 500K all the way up to 900K, right? Close to an 82% increase over here. Okay, and you can see the rest, the top 8 golden estate, right, is all above 50%. Right, so think about it. How do you want to deploy this set of wealth, right? If you have your 4-bedder, 5-bedder, and in fact, if you're already looking at buying, then I will say, hey, you might want to look in the outer regions as well, because it is clearly on the data set that, hey, these are the areas that people are probably flush with cash. And the thing about human being, okay, I don't know whether is it always true to everyone, but a lot of my one-on-one members that I spoke to, right, is that if they kind of grow up in a certain area, they are very familiar with it. Okay, generally they will say, P, I want to sell my HDB here, let's say in Woodlands, okay, or maybe in Punggol, and I want to buy back the same area. Okay, so that's generally the comments that I get from my members. And what I'll do is I'll try to help them to find the best in the area. I'll help them do research and development, right? R&D, and then we'll discuss together. And then with that information, they can actually work with the agent to decide, okay, which is the estate you want to buy, right? So I'm very deep into research. I love it because to me, I get to marry 2 of my passion. One is real estate and one is stock investing together. Okay, we see where the money go, we follow the money. That's exactly how I invest in stock market as well. Okay, now, of course, this is not complete without me answering the very important question. Okay, which is, hey, Pete, the title of this live stream, right, is if I had to make one big property move, okay, before 2026, right, it would have to be this. Okay, so what is the one big property move? Okay, my personal one is if I am holding to a HDB flat, okay, that has already appreciated a lot, and I'm in the group that I'm looking at, hey, I can have a good amount of cash flow from that, right, proceeds, and I'm still getting good income, right? I'm not worried about, not having income for the next maybe 10 to 15 years, right? Now, retrenchment worry, I would say that's something that you need to decide for yourself. But for me, how I look at it is this. Yes, Can I be retrenched from my job? Absolutely, right? These days, nobody's job is iron rice bowl, I would say. Okay, but if your proposition, your value is high enough, okay, you will be able to find another job. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, I don't know, right? But you should be able to find another job subsequently. So if you are in that category, then I will not be too worried. What I will do is, yes, I will sell my HDB, okay, and I will not straight away buy into an investment property or anything. Okay. In fact, I would even give new launches a miss first, because think about it, guys. If you sell away the HDB flat that you are staying in already, what is the number one thing you need to do immediately before you even think about investment? Okay, is to find a replacement house. You need to find a place to replace where you are staying. Okay, so I would do this before 2026, seeing that the supply is coming down very short and a lot of people are flocking towards the resale market already. Is that I will first start off with buying a good resale property for my own stay needs first, before I even think about investment. Now, of course, when I say a good resale unit, it's not just that it is big or whatever, but it also should fulfill some investment criteria over here. Okay? Then if you really want to invest after that, you want to wait for a good new launch, you can do that. You can still continue to wait. But otherwise, I would want to buy a good resale property first. Okay? All right. Okay. So now, I know I'm coming to the tail end of the 45 minutes. Okay. But I want to play a game with you guys. Okay. And I'm very sure you will take away some good knowledge from here. Okay. Shall we? All right. So the first thing that I want to play with all of you is to guess, where is this area? Okay. So why I want to talk about this area while you are guessing, so type your answer in the comments, right? Okay. While you are guessing, is that this was a project that back in the days, okay, when I was telling my clients, right, a lot of people were like, I don't like this place. Wow, right? Doesn't seem like very good, okay? So back then, one of my clients looking at a 3-bedder around the area, not the same unit, by the way, okay? Right? The per square foot is 1141 square feet. Okay? So quite a good size, decent size. These days, 1141 probably is 4-bedder already. Okay? And they bought it at just 1,200 plus per square foot. Okay, and this was during 2020, during COVID. Okay, right. So to be fair, the price was a bit depressed because it's COVID. You know, we are just coming out of COVID, very uncertain. So you know, the price was a bit cheaper. But honestly, this is where looking at projects like this really helps, right? So I'm always on the market. I'm looking at prices every day, and the moment I spotted it, I'm like, hey, let's go and take a look, right? Go and snap it before somebody, you know, go and take a look, you know. So whenever there's opportunity like this, I don't care whether is it COVID, you sneeze or whatever, right? That caused the price to drop, right? The important thing is be on the ball, be at the market and start to hunt for it. And that's what I help my one-on-one members do, right? When I see such good deal, I say, hey, this size you like, right? You say you want 3-bedder, you want all this. And 4 years later, around the estate, they sold for 1,753, right? So this was a transaction last year, okay? I haven't found a transaction this year yet. Maybe this will help. I haven't found an equivalent transaction this year because the size of the development is a bit varied. That is a good clue. The size in the development varies quite a fair bit, okay? But the important thing I want to highlight is that this is not a new project. This is a resale project, and it is, I would say, more than 15 years project already, right? Now, this is where another point I want to share with everybody is that when you're looking at resale, a lot of mistakes I see a lot of young people, right? Especially young people. Young people tend to want to buy young property. And when you tell them to buy something that is like 12 years old, 15 years old, they will say, so old, I'm younger than the property, you know. Okay. But the truth is, age is not the main determining factor when you are investing in property. Okay? All right. And for this one-on-one client that we did, the overall profit also very similar. This particular unit did 580K. I think the client one was about 500 and something also. Okay? So everyone, you want to make a guess or not? Where is it? Okay, so let me see. Okay, so Bowen says Sembawang. Wow, Bowen just look at the HDB chart, right? Okay. Edwin says Tampines. Okay, Gerald says Pasir Ris. Okay, so I of course will make it so easy for you guys. Okay, so it's actually not from the Golden Estate, right? Later on, I'll share with you all something that's from Golden Estate. But this one is actually at I didn't write it down. Okay, you all can go and check it out yourself. This is actually at Reflections by the Bay. Okay, so this is Reflections. Now, where is Reflections? Okay, let me write it down in the banner. Okay, so anybody know where is Reflections or not? Okay, it's the infamous or famous development that has the designer layout, right? And a lot of people didn't like Reflections by the Bay because the first round of buyers that went in didn't make money, right? In fact, I would say the first round of buyers that went in till today, they might still be losing money, okay? But subsequently, the second group, third groups of buyer, when they went in, they bought it at a much cheaper price, okay? So the important thing to understand about resale market is this. A project that didn't do very well in the initial years doesn't mean that it will not do well later. In fact, if anything, okay, I've seen very often that projects that didn't do very well initially due to valid reasons, for example, for Reflections, is a pricing problem, right? The developer priced it too high at the very beginning, so they bought it too expensive, okay? Very often, if the first batch of buyer didn't make money and the price got very, very depressed, that's where it becomes a golden opportunity for people to invest in. Okay, so think about it. It is like super amazing for my one-on-one members. They sold their HDB, they make their 400 plus K, they come here, they buy this one, then last year they also sold, they make another $500,000. That is almost 1 million already, right? So can you become a millionaire, cash flow millionaire, real cash millionaire through real estate in Singapore, even though you're just dealing with one property? The answer is yes. Okay, all right. So exactly, right? So Gerald is absolutely right. This is at the Telok Blangah area. Okay, Reflections by the Bay. Now, let's look at the next one. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. All right. Okay, so this one is a second project. Okay, so you can see over here 3 bedders, right? 1163 square feet. Back in the days, 2021, bought it at 1,500 plus. Okay, and the sale price last year, okay, was 1944. Okay, so the profit they make 400K. So who say that only new launch can make money? Look at this resale bought in 2021, right? Sold it 4 years later, right? In 2024, make 480K. So each year about 120K. Not too bad, right? Okay, so now the time for y'all to guess already. What project or you can guess project? Maybe I give you a clue. I give you a clue. Where exactly is it? Okay. Is in the northeast region. Is in the northeast region. Where do you think that is? Okay, give you a clue. Otherwise, very hard to guess, right? So many different places. Okay, northeast region. I give you a clue. It's very near the MRT. Very, very near the MRT. So let me see. Okay, so Gerald says Punggol. Edwin says Punggol. Okay, very near, very near. Very, very near. Very, very near. Okay. It's a few stations down. Okay, so below Punggol is what station? Everybody, below Punggol is what station? Sengkang, right? Okay. Then below Sengkang is what? Okay, let's go MRT stop. MRT stop. Okay. Okay, let's search for the map of MRT. Then we can have a look. Okay. So you can see over here, below Punggol is Sengkang. Below Sengkang is what's below Sengkang? Everybody. What is below Sengkang? Below Sengkang is Buangkok. Very good. Very good. Okay. And this is actually Jewel at Buangkok. Okay. So, guys, these are all resale transaction that has happened. And it is a good testament. Okay. And these are the projects that I really like back in the days. Okay. I would say, in fact, till now, it is still quite good project. Okay. So yeah. Right. For those of you who are looking at buying your first own place, I want you to really consider that, hey, doesn't have to be new launch. Okay, doesn't even have to be the very expensive newly TOP unit. Can you buy a resale project that is actually a little bit older, but older comes with its benefit. A bit older, also cheaper. You buy at 1,500, you sell at 1,900, you make money already, right? in the previous case, you buy at 1,200, you sell at 1,700, you already make money already. Okay, so don't need to sell very high. But if you go and buy the very new projects, newly TOP project, 2,400 per square foot, 2,500 per square foot, then I always say, we hope all these buyers make a lot of money because if they are very profitable, we will be even more profitable. Boom. Right? So to me, that's why resale has a very, very unique place in my heart, that it should be your first property for own stay because it can give you a better price, good investment value, plus, like what Gerald is saying here, you can get a bigger size because I've seen so many new launch projects these days, right? That the size is pitifully small, right? I would find it very hard to imagine myself staying in them. Okay, so yeah, I like big space. Like for example, the place I'm staying at right now is about 1,500 square feet. Very comfortable. Okay, but if you tell me to squeeze into a 900 square feet, I'll be like, I won't even have this room to do my live stream. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is just a very quick game to educate and to share with you guys. I hope it's a fun way to engage you guys, but it's to get you guys thinking out of the box, beyond just the new launch cycle, beyond just the TOP cycle. Okay, all right. Now, so let's continue. Okay, so right now, one thing is that you can see we are live streaming this from the YouTube. Okay, so for those of you, what we're going to do is this. I know I've limited time. I've come to the end of it already, but I have so much more to share with you guys, right? Okay, so what we'll be doing from here is that me, right, will be collaborating with the next level team to make this into a series of education. Okay, so the next one is going to be on the 20th, if I'm not wrong. Let me just double confirm. Yeah. Okay, so 2 weeks later, we're going to have another live stream, okay, on the 20th of August. Okay, so if you want to be updated, right, you want to be informed of the next live stream, okay, right, do subscribe to this channel and they will update you. Okay, now, this is the key thing. The next session, what I will talk about is this. Okay, on the 20th, I will talk about these few things. Is that right now, even resale prices is very high, higher prices everywhere. Okay, and the thing is, I see a lot of people telling me, "Hey Pete, wow, the property price is like the train running in front of me, right? I cannot outrun the train. My income cannot outrun the train." Okay, and there was a lot of worries among my one-on-one members when they first come to me. Right, they will say, "Hey Pete, I don't know what to buy. I'm very scared that I buy the wrong thing and I lose money." And I would say this is a valid concern because a lot of people do lose money when they buy the wrong property. Okay? Or they'll say, "Hey Pete, I'm just starting. I don't even know where's a good place to buy." Or in fact, the most interesting question that I've ever received is, "Pete, I don't know what is best suited for me," which is great. Okay? So what I want to do in the next session is to go through all these very commonly asked questions about property, right? How do you handle all these higher prices? Sometimes it's worth it, sometimes not worth it. How do you know that? Okay. And also, how do you structure your property journey such that you don't have to run after the prices? Okay. You let the prices carry you along. So you will not be run after the train. You'll be on the train. Okay. And I'm also going into like how to avoid some of the most common pitfalls of people investing, because I see a lot of people in their HDB house, they are sitting on a lot of potential, right? They can have a lot of potential cash there to invest. Okay. And I want to help you guys to make better decisions here. Okay. So the next live stream will be on the 20th of August, right? Which is also a Wednesday, right? Once again at 9 p.m. Then I'll share with you guys. All right. Okay. So I think that's about it. What we'll do right now is let's go into Q&A if you all have any questions. Okay. And do subscribe to the Next Level Academy YouTube page, okay, to learn more. Okay, I hope you all learned a lot from this session as well. All right, so let's go into Q&A if you have any questions. All right, okay. Analytically asked, would it be wise to compare resale in the same area to the new launch prices? Yeah, I would think so. Okay, so there is kind of like a formula that you can use to compare old property with new property, depending on what's the age difference, where's the location. Okay, there's a way to compare that, right? So yeah, you should absolutely compare resale with new launch prices. But to me, the most important thing is this. It's not whether the resale is good value compared to the new launch, right? To me, if it's your first property, you also need to ask yourself, am I okay to stay at the new launch size? I think that's very important. Sometimes the price might be worth it, the new launch prices might be worth it, but if the size is very small, okay, then you might want to think about it, right? So for example, last few new launches, we saw that some of the 3-bedders are at 700 square feet. Oh my goodness. Okay, so to me, that is quite small. That is quite small. Okay. All right. Yeah, so Mari Joe is saying, yes, pitifully smaller and smaller. Yeah, so sometimes there is a threshold. So I'll also tell you guys like on what size to me is ideal for how many bedders. We don't want to go less than that, basically. Okay. All right. Okay. If not, any questions? Okay. If not, I think that's all we have for this session. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. Okay. I will see you all again on the 20th, where we're going to have the next live stream. All right. And I will share more about my investment journey and how I select property from there. Okay. If not, that's all I have for this time round. Okay. Good to have you guys. See you next time.